Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into Surah Al-Anfal. That's the 8th chapter of the Quran. And right off the bat, the name itself is interesting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Al-Anfal. I mean, it signifies these bounties, these unexpected gains, spoils even.
Right, like it's hinting that these are provisions, coming from somewhere else,
Hmm.
divinely granted.
Exactly, divine provisions. And this surah, it's really anchored in a specific time and place. It was revealed in Medina, and, the timing is crucial, right around the Battle of Badr.
The Battle of Badr. Okay, so we've got this Surah Al-Anfal revealed around the time of this super important battle. What's the connection?
Well, you see, after the battle, there was this, how do I put it, a practical problem that popped up among the early Muslims, a disagreement, actually, about how to handle, the spoils of war.
They won this huge victory, and then they're arguing over what they won.
It happens, right. And that's precisely what the surah addresses. I mean, think about it. This text, it's both historical and deeply spiritual, and it tackles this immediate real-world issue. So what we're going to try to do today is kind of a mission, is to extract those key life lessons from all this for you.
Okay, I like it. Lessons from the battlefield and from the divine. So first, I guess we need to understand what happened at Badr. Set the scene for us.
So picture this. Tensions are escalating between Medina and Mecca, and the Muslims, they're planning to intercept a Meccan trade caravan, a strategic move.
Makes sense.
But here's the twist. The Quraysh, they get wind of this and they respond with force. A huge force. We're talking like 1,000 men
That's housing. Right?
against just over 300 Muslims.
Yeah.
Talk about an underdog situation.
So totally outnumbered. What happened next?
Well, against all odds, the Muslims win. A decisive victory. And this is a major turning point. Islamic tradition, it emphasizes that this victory was due to divine intervention.
So not just strategy and skill, but something more.
Right. And this is reflected in the Quran itself. It refers to the Battle of Badr as the day of distinguishing, Yom al-Furqan. It marks this significant moment in early Islamic history.
Okay, so they win this improbable victory, and now they've got all these spoils. So that's where Al-Anfal comes in.
Exactly. And the surah, it lays down this fundamental principle. All these spoils, they belong to Allah and his messenger.
So right away, it's reframing the whole idea of ownership.
Completely. And it gets pretty specific, too. Verse 41, it actually breaks down the distribution. 1/5 is allocated for certain groups, very clear needs. And the remaining 4/5, well, that's for those who participated in the battle.
So even in victory, there's this focus on fairness, on sharing.
It's a divine system, like a blueprint for managing these resources ethically. Even, or maybe especially, when they come from something like war.
So it's not about the victors just taking whatever they want. There's a higher principle at play.
Right. And throughout the surah, this theme of unwavering faith, of trust in Allah, especially during hardship, it runs deep. Look at Badr. The Muslims were outnumbered, facing this very real threat, but they had faith. And the victory, it's attributed to that reliance on divine support.
So it's a powerful lesson, right? Even when things look bleak, that faith can make a difference.
Absolutely. And beyond faith, Al-Anfal emphasizes something else. It's this idea of unity, of solidarity among believers.
Okay, unity. Why is that so important?
Well, the surah, it actually warns against discord, against disagreements within the community. It explicitly says that these divisions, they weaken you. So cooperation, supporting each other, those become essential for strength. And you know what? This is all tied to another repeated idea, obedience to Allah and his messenger, that's presented as the path to guidance and success.
So if you're united and following that guidance, you're stronger, more resilient. It all connects.
It does. You mentioned divine assistance earlier, and that's really a recurring theme in this surah.
Yeah, how so?
Well, the Battle of Badr itself, think about it. It serves as this powerful example of Allah's direct intervention, his support for those who believe. It reinforces the idea that, when you're striving for what's right, you're not alone in that struggle.
It's almost like a reminder that there's this bigger force working in the background.
Exactly. And it's interesting because the surah even touches on the concept of ethical warfare, guidelines for conduct, even in the midst of conflict.
Ethical warfare, what does that even mean in this context?
Well, the surah, it outlines some pretty clear principles, like the whole point of fighting should be for justice, not for personal gain, not out of arrogance. And honoring treaties, that's crucial too. It shows that even in war, there are moral boundaries.
So it's not just a free-for-all. There are rules, even in the heat of battle.
Right. And then there's this concept of taqwa.
Taqwa, yeah. We hear that a lot. What does it mean here?
So taqwa, it's often translated as God consciousness. And in the surah, it's presented as this like cornerstone of righteous living. Verse 29, it promises that those who cultivate taqwa, they'll be granted this ability to discern, right from wrong, and they'll receive forgiveness, expiation for their sins.
So taqwa is like this shield, this guiding principle.
Absolutely. And to drive that point home, the surah uses examples from history. Like, think about the Pharaoh. It illustrates what happens when arrogance and injustice prevail and how ultimately righteousness triumphs.
So we can learn from the past, from the mistakes and successes of those who came before.
Exactly. And finally, the surah, it gives these warnings against hypocrisy and greed. It highlights how these qualities, they can eat away at a community's integrity. It even references those initial disputes over the spoils of the Badr, as a cautionary tale.
Right. Even with divine guidance, human nature can still get in the way.
It's a constant struggle, and I think it's worth mentioning that, there are so many scholarly interpretations that delve even deeper into these verses. They offer a lot of insight into the practical applications of these teachings, like how do we apply these principles in our lives today?
So there's always more to learn, more to unpack.
Absolutely.
So if we were to kind of sum up all this, what's the big takeaway you get from Al-Anfal?
For me, Surah Al-Anfal takes this historical event, the Battle of Badr, and it uses it to impart these timeless lessons about faith, about unity, about ethical conduct, and ultimately about trusting in a higher purpose. It's like a framework for how to navigate life's challenges, with this strong moral center, with reliance on divine guidance.
It's a powerful message. So for you listening, here's something to think about. How do these ideas about managing your resources with integrity, fostering unity in your own communities, maintaining faith in what you're doing, how do those resonate with you today? Regardless of, a battle fought centuries ago, it's pretty profound stuff. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.